Welcome. Today we're going to be taking a look at The Voyages of Marco Polo. This is a 2 to 4 player dice rolling card drafting set collection game where you take the role of an associate of Marco Polo reenacting his journey to China in 1271. You will be completing contracts, goals, and visiting cities along the way, trying to become the most successful associate of Marco Polo. How do you become the most successful associate of Marco Polo and win the game? By having the most victory points at the end of the 5th round. Now that we know what the winning condition is, let's take a look at the components setup and how gameplay works in The Voyages of Marco Polo. Now let's take a look at the components. You have your game board, coins, city bonus tiles, outpost bonus tiles, goal cards, city cards, contract tiles. The red are regular contracts and the blue are starting contracts. You have your resources. You have gold, silk, pepper, and camels. There are 2 sizes for each resource. The smaller size represents 1, and then the larger size represents 3 of that resource. You have dice, player boards, figures, and trading posts in each color, character tiles, point cards, starting player marker, player aids, quick rules, and supplement reference. Now let's take a look at the setup. We'll be setting this up for a 3-player game, which takes 20 steps. There are 11 general steps and 9 player steps. Step 1, place the game board and the point cards. You're going to place the game board in the center of the play area and the point cards next to the 50 space on the score track. Step 2, shuffle and place goal cards. Step 3, create your coin pool. Step 4, create your resource pools. Remember that the larger resource of each type is valued at 3. The smaller one is a value of 1. Step 5, place the city bonus tiles on the main game board. If it's your first time playing the game, you'll want to match the cities on the main game board with the same letter that is on the city bonus tile. If you played the game a few times, you can shuffle and place the tiles out randomly. Step 6, shuffle and place the outpost bonus tiles. You'll want to shuffle the bonus tiles face down, place them on the outposts, and then turn them face up and place the remaining 3 back in the box. Step 7, you will shuffle and place your city cards. You will shuffle the city cards face down, and then you'll place 1 face up on each of the cities on the board, and then you'll return the remaining cards back to the box. Step 8, you will separate, shuffle, and stack your contract tiles. You'll first separate the contracts by color, so you will separate your starting contracts from your general contracts. You will then shuffle each stack, place the starting contracts to the side, and then you will take the red general contracts and place them into 5 piles of 6 tiles each, and then you will have an extra pile that you will place to the side. Step 9, place the 10 character tiles next to the board. Step 10, place the black dice on the main game board. You will place the number of dice equal to the number of players plus 1. So since we're setting this up for a 3-player game, we will place 4 black dice on the main game board. Step 11, you will choose a starting player. This is the player who has traveled most recently, and then you will give them the hourglass. Step 12, you will choose a color, and then you will take and place the player board in your play area. Step 13, take and place the 5 dice that match your player color on your player board. Step 14, take and place the 9 trading posts of your matching player color on your player board. Step 15, you are going to choose and place a starting contract. You will choose at random a starting contract, and then you'll place it on one of the 2 active contract locations on your player board. Step 16, get your starting resources. You are going to get 2 camels, and then you'll get coins based on the player order. If you're the first player, you will get 8 coins. If you are the second player, you will get 8. The third would get 9, and if there was a fourth player, they would get 10 coins. Step 17, you are to choose a character. If it is your first game, there is a suggested character for each player in the rulebook. If you've played the game a few times, you can shuffle and choose in reverse turn order. We're going to set this up as if it was the first time playing, so we'll use the suggested characters in the rulebook. A list of the characters' abilities are located in the rulebook. Step 18, you will take and place 2 figures of your player color. You'll place 1 on the score track and then 1 on Venezia. Step 19, deal 2 gold cards to each player. If you've played the game a few times and you prefer the advanced setup, you can deal 4 gold cards to each player and you can select 2. And then finally, step 20, give each player a player aid and then take the first stack of contracts and place them on the main game board. Now let's take a look at the gameplay. A game consists of 5 rounds and then the final scoring. A round consists of 3 phases: start of round, player turns, and end of round. Now let's take a look at each in detail. The first phase is the start of round. This takes 4 steps. Step 1, choose a new starting player, except the first round. The player who chose the travel action last is the new starting player. Step 2, award city and character bonuses. All of the exclamation mark symbols will provide a bonus during this time. These are found on all small cities and some of the character tiles. Step 3, retrieve all dice. You will retrieve all of your dice and return any black dice to the main game board. And then finally, step 4, you will roll all of your dice and gain compensation for rolls that are less than 15. For each number less than 15, you will gain 1 coin or 1 camel. That brings us to the second phase, player turns. There are 3 steps to a player's turn. Step 1, carry out bonus action if you choose. Step 2, choose and carry out 1 action. And then step 3, carry out bonus action if you choose. So once our first player takes their turn, it will go in clockwise order until all of our players have run out of dice. When it comes to actions, there are 5 bonus actions and 6 regular actions. The bonus actions are located on the back of the player aid. There are 5 bonus actions that you can take during your turn. The first, complete 1 contract. You will return all of the goods needed for your contract back to the resource pools, and then you will gain the reward for your contract and then flip it over and place it in your completed contract area of your player board. The second bonus action is to take 3 coins. You can place 1 die onto the money bag and take 3 coins regardless of the die value. The third bonus action is to re-roll 1 die. You can return 1 camel to re-roll 1 die of your choice. The fourth is to adjust 1 die result by 1. You can return 2 camels to the supply and adjust one of your die results up or down 1. And then finally, the 5th bonus action that you can take is to take 1 black die. You would pay 3 camels back to the supply and take 1 of the black die, roll it, and add it to your player board. You are only allowed to take 1 black die per turn. There are 6 regular actions. The first action is to take 5 coins. You would place a die in this location and gain 5 coins. The second action is to go to the Grand Bazaar. This is where you go to get resources and coins. You'll place the number of die depending on the row of resources between 1 and 3 die, And then based on the lowest of the die that you place, you will gain that column of goods and add the goods to your player board. So if blue chose to play an action by going to the Grand Bazaar, and they chose to place a 5 and a 4, then that means that they would go over in that row to the 4 column and gain 3 silk. The third action is Khan's Favor. Here you'll place a die to gain 1 resource of your choice and 2 camels. The first player to place a die in this location would go into the far left spot. Then the next player that wants to use the location has to place a die that is greater than or equal to that value. So let's say that yellow chose to use Khan's Favor. They placed a die that had a number of 3, and they gained 1 gold and 2 camels. Then the next player that uses that location would have to place a die that has a value of 3 or greater. The fourth type of action is to take a contract. This will allow you to gain contracts. You would place a die and take 1 or 2 contracts within the columns up to that die number. If you take a contract or 2 contracts, you would immediately slide the remaining contracts down. If 1 contract is left, you can only take that one, and if no contracts are left, you would draw 2 from the special pile and place them under the 1 and 2 locations. On your player board, you can only have 2 active contracts. So if you take an extra contract, you would need to choose one that was already active on your player board to discard and place under the special pile. So let's say that green played a die to this location with a number 3. That means they could choose 1 or 2 contracts up to the 3rd contract. The fifth type of action is travel. This is how you move your figure around the map. You would place 2 die, and then based on the lowest number of die that you placed, you would choose your movement number and pay the travel cost. You would also pay additional cost based on the map movement. There are some locations on the map that would require you to pay camels or coins. You would then move your figure, and if you ended your movement in a large or small city, you would place one of your trading posts. When placing your trading post, you go top to bottom, left to right. If you end in a large city, that opens up an action for that city card. If you end your movement in a small city, you gain the bonus immediately, and then you will gain it at the start of each round after. If you are the first to put a trading post in a large city, you would gain the outpost bonus and would be able to remove the tile. When you place a trading post in Beijing, you get the most victory points available for your trading post. Once you run out of trading posts, you must move 1 of your trading posts that you placed earlier in the game to the new location. So let's say that blue wants to travel on their turn. So they placed 2 die in the travel location. Since their lowest die number is 2, they could travel up to 2 spaces and pay 7 in coins. Since blue is the first to get to this large city, they would take the outpost bonus and remove the tile. And then blue would place a trading post, which means that on their next turn, that city card action is available. And then finally, the sixth type of action is the city cards. These are the cards in large cities where you have trading posts. Only 1 person per round can use the city card. The number on the die that you place on the city card usually indicates how many times you can use the action conversion. So if blue chose to use their final turn by placing the die on their city card, they would only be able to use that conversion once. Now when it comes to actions, other than city cards and Khan's Favor, you can use an occupied space by paying the lowest number on a single die that you use for that space. So let's say that yellow wanted to travel. They would have to pay to use the travel location since it is already occupied, and they would pay the lowest number on 1 of the die that they used. So in this case, they would pay 3 coins to use this space. And then turns would go around until every player runs out of die. That would bring us to the third phase, which is the end of round. This has 2 steps. 1, clear any remaining contracts, and 2, add new contracts to the board. Then you are ready to start a new round. And then the rounds would continue until you finish your 5th round. After you finish the 5th round, you would go into your final scoring. There are 5 steps to the final scoring. Step 1, score points for your goal cards. Step 2, score 1 victory point for every 10 coins you have left. Step 3, score your trading post in Beijing. 4, if you have a trading post in Beijing, score 1 victory point for every 2 goods. During this, you do not count camels. And then step 5, the player or players with the most completed contracts score 7 points. If your score ever goes past 50, you would gain a point card with 50. After you finished tallying the final score, if there is a tie, the player with the most camels is declared the winner, and if not, the player with the most victory points is the most successful associate to Marco Polo and wins the Voyages of Marco Polo.